Hi everyone, today I'd like to speak about Sinn Fein and Matt Carty. He is the Home Affairs and Migration spokesperson for Sinn Fein. So he shadows Jim O'Callaghan, the Minister for Home Affairs and Migration. Of course, he should be renamed Minister for the EU Migration Pact. And Matt Carty was speaking on The Tonight Show, which is a show on Virgin Media, a self-proclaimed public service broadcaster. Now in these shows you normally have loaded panels with non-government organisation members of the media establishment, and of course members of Dáil Éireann. But in this discussion they were speaking around Kulok and what were the lessons learned from Kulok. Now that was the famous Crown Paints factory that was earmarked for the immigration industry, but led to massive demonstrations across the north side of Dublin in the last year, and the people won. But of course the establishment will come out and say that there has to be lessons learned, how we can avoid this in the future. So they got the usual independent councillors speaking, and they all said there should be better community engagement. Of course they're fantastic after the event, but went to ground when the event was occurring. And of course they went on and said that there should be a proper community engagement for the future, as I've said. Of course we know it's a community disengagement team, really. There has been no community engagement and integration around what's going on. And it was said that there should be more state-supported interventions before this happens. So really more of the same nonsense you'd expect from the councillors in the area. But also there was a member of the NGO was there from the Hope and Courage Collective, I think they're called. They're funded obviously through the taxpayer. They have Orla O'Connor on the board. Of course, that was the National Women's Council of Ireland, who were trying to take the mother out of the Constitution. Remember them? Who were funded, of course, through government and other sources as well. But of course, their agenda is to clamp down on freedom of expression. It was said by their representative who was in attendance last night at this event. And she said that they should be looking down to clamp down on mis and disinformation. Now, this is very interesting when you consider what is mis and disinformation. But of course, we know most of it is sent from the media classes. And of course, it was more of the same nonsense coming from them to say about more community engagement and all this type of stuff. And spoke about deprivation, which was interesting, in communities which we all are fully aware of. And led me on to Matt Carty of Sinn Féin, where he spoke about. He said many millionaires are making money out of the immigration industry. 100%, Matt, spot on. He also said it's down to government outsourcing, spot on. But what was interesting here is that when Matt Carty spoke about it should be a state-led response. So let's bring them all in-house into the state-led response, which benefits, of course, the big employers and benefits the globalist mass immigration agenda. So Matt Carty was saying we should bring it all in-house. I'm sure he's in agreement with the €100 million that's going to be spent on the City West Hotel. That's leading to massive protests. So he went on, and he also said that they have to get this right. And by getting it right, he meant that they have to have a proper immigration system. So let's delve into what he was speaking about in terms of immigration policy, which was interesting. He said, well, actually his leader said a number of months ago when they were sitting on the fence, of course, Sinn Féin, which always sit on the fence on issues to see what way the tide is going. And they said we won't put any more protection centres in, or immigration centres in working class communities. So he elaborated on this and said that he would look at the Public Deprivation Index. And he was asked to specify what communities, what areas would he not put centres in. And he said he wasn't willing to declare which ones. So after stating the public deprivation index, he says he's not going to look at it. He's not going to declare which ones. Interesting, isn't it? So, according to this public deprivation index, there's about 190, nearly 200,000 people on the deprivation index. And of course, if you look at Pobble, it's an NGO. And of course, it was set up, and a big push of it was through the European Commission. The European Commission to look at social disadvantage. And of course, their liberal policies, of course, would run opposite to encouraging more money being transferred into communities that need it to help prevent disadvantage. But of course, this is the total upside down world we're living in when you see this nonsense being peddled. And of course, they're trying to fund programs. Up to 39 programs are currently being funded apparently across Ireland. Over 1.2 billion euro is being spent on these programs to help guard against social disadvantage. But it's interesting, since they last did the figures, deprivation has gone up in numbers. The last time Pobble did a deprivation index, it was about 155,000. So now it seems to have gone up. More money, but yet it goes up. Is that interesting? But of course, Matt Carthy wouldn't answer where he was going to propose to place these immigration centres. But of course, it just shows you the nonsense that Carthy and Sinn Fein are spinning. Essentially a uniparty in Dáil Éireann. You have an establishment who are fully on board with the globalist agenda, and you have people on the streets who have had enough of what's going on in Ireland and are fully awake to the bigger agenda at play in Irish society. Of course, who benefits? It's always funneled money upwards, much as these schemes with the European Commission and how it's set up in the European Union through the corporations to benefit while ordinary people carry the can. We see massive amounts of inequality in Ireland, widening issues of poverty, deprivation, the cost of living disaster, people unable to afford a massive arrears on their energy bills. We see rampant homelessness, rents out of control, house prices out of control. Everything is forcing more and more people over the edge. But again, more money is getting funneled upwards. And you have weak opposition, inverted commas, opposition, who are fully on board with the bigger agenda and won't challenge the whole nexus of control in Ireland in terms of the European Union. But this is what's portrayed on the so-called public service broadcaster, and this is how it's being pushed on the vast majority of people who don't see an alternative point, who don't get to see an alternative point of view, or to get to look at the bigger picture in terms of what's going on. It won't be spoken about in the media. Of course, it's not what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you, essentially, is how they work as well. So again, just another public relations nonsensical stunt by these establishment figures through the media and with their political friends in tow and their non-government organisation buddies and their €6 billion a year of public money transferred into their hands to keep peddling the myth, to push the narrative. But thankfully the people are more and more awake to what's going on. So please share my videos, please subscribe, and please continue to comment. And thanks so much, and I'm very grateful for all the kind comments, support with all my videos. So from Dublin, Slán, take care, bye bye.